Welcome, episode 11. Welcome back to all the long-time listeners. Welcome to all new listeners. Thanks for everybody for listening to the episodes, following me. Remember that you could follow Corey Shepherd Podcast on IG, on Twitter, on Facebook. Just the Corey Shepherd Podcast. I think on Twitter is the Corey Shep Pod. Figure that one out, right? Thanks for everybody who listens on Apple, Google, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, TuneIn, or everywhere that podcasts available. You could pretty much get it now, and I will continue sending out the link to everybody. So thanks for tuning in. How was your guys' week? What was the week like for you guys? This was a long week, but it feel like a long time. Usually I complain that Tuesdays coming around too quick because I had to jump back on the mic here, but this one was long. It's like a lot happened since the election, or a lot didn't happen since the election. So I promised that last week was going to be my last election episode. And I'm going to try to stick to that promise for at least the first 15 minutes of this episode. I think I also promised way back that I wasn't going to talk about COVID no more. I'm going to break that promise too, because we're in a situation now where we back to some version of a lockdown in Trinidad. I don't know, for all of you listening in London, in Canada, in the US, I would love to hear your feedback as to what's going on in your country. I mean, I'm following up on what's going on, but I'm feeling like if we are just where you guys were in New York and in Miami some time ago, you'll probably pass the worst. And I don't know, we're looking like if we're heading towards it, because when you look at the cases in Trinidad now on a daily basis, you're starting to see 40 and 50, which is big numbers for us, right? If you remember when you used to live here, remember the country you used to live in? It's big numbers for us, and we were accustomed to seeing none on most days, and when they do have is one or two. There are two more deaths, so rest in peace and condolences to the families of those who passed away, sadly and unfortunately. And so the week is heavy, it's depressed. I feeling like I'm depressed again. This news of this lockdown, my energy is low. I had to admit to all my energy low. This whole week is like, oh my God. I guess all of us were looking. We were always saying that right after election we were going to lock down again. But I guess nobody could have anticipated the amount of new cases we're looking at now, and the new reality that we faced with here is different. So we back to bars. Well, the bars kind of open a little bit. Like you could open one side of the door, or you could open the exit. How is it go? You open half the entrance and the whole exit. They say that you could go to the bar and buy drinks, but you can't drink them there. So the bar is basically like a shop or grocery. I personally thought that's what they should have done in the first lockdown, because to have bars fully closed, but I mean, Trinis, we don't really obey rules too good, no? The restaurant's gone back to takeaway, so we can't sit and eat at restaurants anymore. I will miss that. And if I remember right, or somebody had to correct me, but I remember when they did the first lockdown, where it was business places and they were encouraging everybody to stay home and restaurants were fully closed and all that. I remember it being for a 2-week period. Like they said, we'll do 14 days and see. But now they went straight to 28 days, which sounds like eternity. But we're here for it. We had to adjust. But at least now we could go and get stuff at the restaurant. I don't have to try and, like when that first lockdown, I tried to cook and thing. That's how I end up podcasting, because I tried to cook and I realized I need to find another skill. So I end up here. But at least you could buy and grab and run. What else happened? Maxis and taxis. I know Maxis for sure. They said half the capacity. I'm pretty sure if they did that for Maxis, it would be the same for taxis. And then schools is like deeper depression. Schools closed for the rest of the year, and we need a solution. This ain't go. It's not gonna work. This man home until the end of December. This is a long time to have children home. I'm appealing on behalf of all children and all parents. Thank God the SEA exam's still on. I'm coming back to this all the time, because the stress on the parents and on the children who have to do SEA, I'm sure is enormous. So thank God that is going to get done. I hope and pray that everybody's safe going to and from them exams and just get done and out of the way. But after that, you're home until when it is December. And I see now the teacher sent a book, and you had things to do in the book and to follow some lesson to finish up. I think my son in standard 1, I think, or 2. How will he be when you're turning 8? Where he's being standard 1 or 2? Wherever he finishing that, hopefully by the end of, I don't know, August, September, and then they'll start the next term work when that time come. And boy, it's all overwhelming to me. It's a lot. I don't know what the people, and everybody keeps talking about this new normal that we're supposed to be going through. And I guess for me this week, it now starting to soak in that. Because I keep looking forward to this after COVID period. And I don't know if maybe I just setting myself up, to be honest, because I don't know if they have our after COVID period again. It looking like if we just had to ride this out and hope for the best, basically. I mean, the medical professionals continuing to do their best despite what happened in the country now, where the daily press conferences going on, but it seems to be only medical personnel on that panel now. And they handle the thing. When you look at Dr. Parasram, Dr. Hines, and all the other doctors involved there, the guys know their stuff. And and ladies, of course, they know how to present what they came to present. I always talk about how much I admire these folks because they're so, I don't want to say matter of fact, like if they don't care, but they stick to the point, they deliver it unemotionally, and they give us something that we could follow, basically, if they give us their advice. And they basically, I mean, if I was Dr. Parasram, I would have come on TV and say, hey, I tell all you, wear all your mask and look what happened now. But then again, that's just me being emotional. But he's not that. He's just like, yeah, well, a lot of it is attributed to not wearing of masks, and now we have what's starting to look like community spread. And he just breezing through his thing. Yes, he know what he's there to do, and they take their job very seriously, because beyond everything that they're doing, they come there prepared for that press conference every single day. You think about it where you working when the boss say you're meeting, how you're scrambling to get things done and to make sure you have everything ready to present. These men have one of the most important meetings in the country every day, and they come there prepared and ready to deliver. So salute to them, of course, all the time, all the doctors involved. And Urvashti, somebody could get Urvashti. I don't understand this thing with, if you don't know about Urvashti, just go on Facebook and put in Urvashti. Yeah, you have to find out for yourself. I ain't putting up no video and saying it was all over social media in Trinidad today. If you're abroad, just go and look for Urvashti and Dr. Nandram. And I don't know, but Dr. Nandram, the man come out sharp. The man come out very, very sharp. Like he came there almost like he was anticipating that this was going to happen, and he was ready for it. Because I go back to this about our journalists locally all the time. A lot of our journalists, when they almost make statements more than they ask questions. Some of them, even when they're asking a question, there's a long statement that comes before the question. Like they're putting something to you rather than just asking questions. And I think if you're doing that, that means you, somewhere in your mind, you think you have the answers. But Urvashti take the cake. She thinks she has the answer. I don't have the answer. So I tune in really, look into the medical professionals and also the media to kind of clear up some of these things for me. Now, these guys guys and ladies, right, do a great job of putting together digestible information in not too technical terms that I feel make sense. And everything they say still come down to me to stay home if you're feeling sick. Wash your hands, sanitize, don't touch your face, wear a mask. It all comes down to that for me. But I like hearing the way they look at it as the experts. But the thing is, by default, I see these folks as the experts. I'm not sure if all of us see them as the experts, because some of us have our own theories as to what's really going on and if COVID is real. But I accept people as the experts. You see, when people went to the big universities and they have the letters and the more and more letters after their name, I respect that. I understand what it takes to do that, and I respect that. So when I want to find out something, I rather ask somebody who knows a lot about that. But it seemed to be that Urvashti come there to say, hey, you see there are logs and legs and all these things all you talking about. It didn't really this is not the way this is working. This is not the natural flow of a, well, boy, I don't know. Doc say, hey, how is he seen? No, if it was me, I would really say, hey, take your time. You know who you're talking to? Where you went and study? This is no journalism, you know. I didn't study journalism. I study epidemiology. But Doc Pedrell, simply Doc, say, hey, what's going on? Thank you, Dr. Hines, for that presentation that you put together. You hold a master's degree from Cambridge University in epidemiology. In other words, establishing the guy as an expert. And she says, he said, I don't want to discount your Google search. And the thing about it is when I heard his clip before I heard hers, because I didn't see the press conference. So I say, but this man, well, he bad. How you go tell the girl she's searching on Google for information? Only to go back when I preparing to talk about this, to hear that she really did say when she checked it on Google is like that. All right, this is impressive. That's pretty spectacular. I mean, only to find out on top of that Urvashi is the lady. I don't know if you all would remember. There was a clip going around there was a time there was a helicopter crash. And then they went from the news to a journalist who said they had somebody there who see the helicopter crash. But the person can't really speak. The person is dumb. They don't talk. You're supposed to say dumb when somebody can't speak. I know deaf people say stop saying hard of hearing. Just call them deaf. I go in based on that and I'm saying dumb, right? Don't vex with me. But the guy can't talk. So the cameraman panned to the fella. the fella talking to Urvashi in sign language and showing how a helicopter crashed. So there's silence on the TV and a lot of gestures being made. But what interesting about that, because that's the best the man could do. If he explaining. But what interesting about the thing is how Urvashi watching the man and shaking she head yes when the man talking like if she understanding the man. And then she even went further after the moment of silence and action. She translated, she went on to say, oh, so what he said was, I said, well, what happened in these streets? What is going on? And I'm trying to figure out how they explain. I want to know what the conversation was like to explain to that man that we wanted to go on the news to explain how the helicopter crashed. If the brother deaf and he can't talk, what was the language like? I don't know who knows sign language, if it was the cameraman or Vashti herself or what went on, but I would love to know the conversation. And well, fast forward to today, she basically puts it to them that, hey, you see them diagram you're doing there that misleading? That is not what logs and lags is. And I just want to put it out there. And I'm thinking, but maybe you should be on the panel. And what makes the thing sweeter is that talk starts to fly during the This is Trinidad. Talk going and fly. From the time people, I don't know where people get the Photoshop or whatever it is used to create memes so fast and make videos so fast. Listen, it is quick. From the time you make a mistake in this country, people waiting for you. And you see how everybody watching the press conference too? They're cutting it into clips and they're waiting for you. They jump on Urvashi, quick. Quick is the word. And she decided she ain't taking the embarrassment because it was embarrassing. I don't know, that was embarrassing. And she decided she ain't swallowing the embarrassment. So she started to answer back people on Facebook. And in the midst of the answer back now, she's saying, well, I might not have a degree from Oxford. You done gone wrong already. It's Cambridge, the man went. You put it in black and white now that you don't listen. The man say, you get stomp out. That wasn't even a clap back. That was a stomp out. You get stomp out from a medical professional. And here now, not just a medical professional, no, a medical professional on behalf of a next medical, because the man in him wait for Heinz to respond or Dr. Heinz to respond himself. The man take it on himself. He's like, hey. You see Google? So she decided, well, I didn't go Oxford, but I went to the University of the West Indies and I could read. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. Listen, you give the internet more fodder, they're going to come after you. So I don't know what that was, but it was funny. And it reminds me of my doctor. Salute my doctor, Darius White. He's the best doctor in Trinidad, right? Don't go by him and take up all my bookings and things, right? But Dr. White, every time I go by him, I think he's take joy in my own stupidity. Because every time I go by him, no matter what the issue is, he say, what you do? You check WebMD, you Google it, what you do? I say, yeah. And he's like, well, what you come up with? And I was like, well, bone marrow cancer. And I was like, bone marrow? He's like, boy, you can't say if you get anything near that. You can't say them words. You're not coming in here in the office driving to talk about them things. So I don't know where. And again, let me say it again. When somebody studies something and they know, not just study it, but they study and they reach the highest levels of their profession in the country they live in. and people globally recognizing them for the work and the plans that they put in against or to help our population navigate through a brand new virus that is new to the world and not everybody know what to do. And the other experts recognizing them as experts. I kind of like to listen to what them have to say. And if I have questions, it will be in the most humble tone that I ask these questions. And the reason I would ask the questions is because I want to find out something. Not in an accusatory way to say, hey, this is what I think and this is what you all should do and that is not what. And McGill is going down dying with her logs and lags. Well, me and know what is logs and lags up to now. But what I can tell you, I think logs and lags is what Dr. Hines say is logs and lags. So Vashti, keep doing the hard work. You're doing a great job. One of the other things that coming out of that press conference all the time is like you ever see the ease with which Dr. Parashuram is say contact tracing? Like he's always just he's talk about it, you know his style. And he's just say, well, yeah, contact tracing we know is a primary contact or a secondary contact or what is tertiary contact. And they're talking about everybody who goes somewhere, you have to be able to know the other people you are in contact with for them to be able to trace where is the possible spread of the virus. And boy, we're having a rough time with this contact tracing. Because today he came out and said that somebody who, I don't know if they said the person was Tobagonian or if they just came from Tobago or went to Tobago. And they said that person ended up with 222 contacts. So they came in contact with 222 people. And 204 primary cases came out of that. And boy, this man, listen, me and Bill for certain things now because if I had to deliver that news, I would be in tears. I cry and all while I talking about it too because it shows me that it's going to be real difficult to trace all these people because when you, all right, let's assume you're in contact with 20 people. I had to go and figure out who each one of them 20 people. If all of them was the 20 people, then it's time to be some maths that I can't work out at all. And you see that we in a country named Trinidad and Tobago where contact tracing due to our culture will be very difficult because mankind cannot say where they was for the whole week last week. Womankind in this country cannot be disclosing where them was and who them was in contact with for a whole week. I want you to start a write down all who you was with for the last week and all the contacts you make and all the places you've been. And you know, Zandoli sing a song, write down the name on a piece of paper. For me, I wear write down a name on a piece of paper and carry it for your husband. Contact tracing, I don't know, in this country, boy, contact tracing is a rough one. Everybody, location thing and the phone off. Everybody phone about 6 different kind of lock. We don't contact trace here. By nature, we're not playing those kind of games. So we in for a rough ride. And on top of that, the boss say, well, I don't know who's the boss now. Let me call people by name. I don't know who's the boss now. Like, look like we are no boss. So Dr. Rowley said that on a press conference on Saturday. Well, Saturday was the 15th. He said that we're going back to some kind of lockdown. Again, the press again just talking about this. We're going back to some kind of lockdown come Monday. This is what you're saying Saturday. And it's the bars have the restriction, the restaurants going back to restricted curbside and takeaway only. And the beaches close and the rivers close and the cinemas close and all these things. And of course, while he is saying that, I home and I see again messages going around in WhatsApp groups from bars that saying last lap lime, a lockdown lime. This is his Sunday. So you know what we in for as Trinidad and Tobago. You know who we are and you know exactly what happened. The bars get ram out on the Sunday. The beaches was ram. Everybody tried to get the last little dip before the lockdown. And I think to myself, I'm wondering why ever since this has been a thing, when you lock down and you do whatever changes necessary, it seemed to be that they always give it a few days before they do it. So they announced Friday that from Sunday the borders closed. And then they announced the Sunday that from Monday restaurant. And I'm thinking, why we don't just do it with immediate effect? Tell restaurants, hey, close today. Now, it could be a little more lenient because, of course, if you could tell people close today, they need time to break down and stuff. Maybe it could be lenient, but The goal is really to get mankind, Trinidad mankind, to stay home and stay away from one another and don't end up in a position where you're spreading a virus or COVID all over the place, or that your contacts too hard to trace. And we enter community spread where nobody don't know where they get it from and they don't know who they was in contact with, and then we just in a period of hoping for the best. But of course, we looking for a lime and a last lap. And I mean, St. James, which is the greatest place in the country, somehow have a big zest, and nobody can call me in the zest. I feel in that kind of way, to be honest with you. Now, I want to say the responsible thing and say that I would not go on and I would not congregate and 6 foot and distance. And I want to say all that until I see the videos from inside. All I see the videos from inside the zest. I want to say follow me on IG and Facebook and thing, and I'll post it there, but it can't post. The zest was a true zest. That cannot go on Facebook. You're going to get reported fast. By thinking a man like me, old mushkins man like me, only call me up in his zest, boy, to come and like me. Anyway, I would not go, right? I would do the right thing and not go in his zest. But it's sad to see. To be honest, and not sad, no, it's scary. Because when you see everybody congregating and, I mean, people in his zest and next to nothing. It was next to nothing. It was pretty much nothing. It frightening because, I mean, if you ain't having nothing, a mask is surely not what you're going to wear, and nobody in mask, and then police had to come, and the thing about it, you had to spare a thought for the police. Because the police have to go and arrest these people and run them down, and they put in their own health at risk to go out there. And then if they put in their own health at risk, they put in their family health at risk or other police officers. And we see a couple police stations had to close down already because of policemen contracting COVID. So how comfortable you be as a policeman? You all of us at risk, right? But you in a position where you have to put yourself at greater risk because some of us being irresponsible. So as I say every week, I'm going to say it again, wash your hands, wear your mask, sanitize, social distance. If you're sick, stay home. And we had to put as little stress on the system as we could put, and I see in the system starting to get stressed out, and I don't know how we're gonna deal with that when that time comes. Because I just saw a report about some kind of chaos at Couva Hospital because some people tested, they don't know if they're positive or not, and people are panic. And the more these things happen, is the more we at risk overall. But some of boys and them in St. James who keep the little zest outside of COVID and thing. When I keeping all the thing in my link now, man, as a St. James man, and don't mind I'm not there again. Are easy to find. Find me now and link me up and let me know when these things going down. Now St. James again, I like to go back to St. James often, especially when we have controversial topics to deal with, right? You see me, every now and again, like last week, it have episodes where we could just talk and laugh for the whole episode. I try to do it every time pretty much, but they have other episodes where it just is heavy stuff, and this week was one of them weeks. I don't know, the heaviness was just coming down over and over this week. So let me tell a little story, right? I had to tell a story before I get into these controversial things that happened this week. And just to remind everybody about my middle of the road theory and my I don't know if I'm balanced there. I don't think I'm a balanced person, but I think I'm middle of the road in that I maybe the way I live, I get to see both sides of many things. So it always my default is always to try to see things from either side. So let me tell a little story. Every time I say story, I know that is an hour and a half, right? But this story gonna be short. Yeah, maybe 2 stories. So we can add up long. But one of the things I find was instructive, going back to St. James, is that I, as a youth growing up, I never like people talking to me rough. I think I still don't like it. You see, when you talk to me rough, I can't hear what you're saying. When you talk to me nice and smooth, I could hear you and I could follow and I could go with what you're saying, right? So even as a little child, I never really like it. When you see a child, you had to shout at me and you had to rough me up and you're coming at me aggressive. I cannot hear what you're saying. That's the best way I could put it. It don't matter how important the message is, or how useful the message is, or how helpful the message is. If you talk to me rough, I can't hear it. Let me talk about the opposite of that, right? If you talk to me sweet and nice, I hear everything you say. And that is something that I learned to adjust to over the years, because it means that if somebody tell me sweet lies, the kind you doubt but you want to believe in, I fall in for that because you're talking to me nice. And if somebody's giving me the harsh truth or the reality, I tend to not want to listen to it, even if it's in my own best interest or my benefit. So it make me over the years start to watch now, okay, let me start to watch myself, especially with the rough part, because I don't want to miss out on good information or helpful information or things that could help me grow. So I have to find ways now as an adult to try to ignore the way somebody's saying something. When somebody says something to me, I try to strip away. People say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I don't want to believe in that at all. I want to get to the what you say, and I want to put aside the how you say it. Because you see, the how you say it tends to now, it cloud over the information. So, like, if somebody come in, like a bus coming to hit you, or you're crossing the street, my father always tell me this, a bus coming to hit you. Somebody can't come up to you and say, hi, sir, a bus is on the way and I would like you to. They have to say, but move, come on. It had to be rough, it had to be aggressive. So if I can't condition myself to look past the way somebody telling me something and to hear what the person's saying, I feel at a disadvantage. And I mean, I don't know how I always end up to relationships, but maybe relationships is one of the best ways to talk about this. Because listen, one thing I learned in relationships, right? And I have plenty failed relationships, and I want to say all of them is my fault. But one thing I learned through the relationships that I was in is that when people upset, they might say things, number one, in a harsh way, and number two, things that they're trying to say to hurt you. If you was never here, you ain't go through nothing yet in life, right? If you was never vexed and with somebody, especially relationships, man and woman business, or man and man, woman and woman, where when you're in a romantic relationship, you are going to reach a point where you get vexed with somebody and you say things that you mightn't even mean, or sometimes you have it inside to tell them, but the idea is to hurt them or hurt them back. And sometimes you hear somebody tell you something to hurt you. Now, you have to tell me the truth if this is true or not. You tell people who you love very hurtful things already. If you never did, today is a good day. What better day than today to go and tell somebody you love something hurtful? And tell me if it's true too. People who love you, who in your life up to today, tell you very hurtful things already. And you find a way to forgive them, and you find a way to forgive yourself. And sometimes you could even reach a point where you could laugh about it. Say, girl, remember when you tell me so and so on. You move on and you laugh about it, right? So that's story number one, right? Stay with me, right? The story number one is, I do not believe in that saying that goes, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I want to know what you say. Second story. Time I walking through St. James, right? As a little fella. I can't tell you what age I was in. I really can't remember. I know for sure I probably ain't a teenager yet, a young. And on St. James Main Road, there was a pharmacy named Austin's Pharmacy. How am I going to tell you where Austin's is, boy, if you're not from St. James? It's about 2 corners before Smokey and Bunty if you're heading west. Well, there's no Smokey and Bunty no more. It's in St. James, right? There's a pharmacy named Austin's. That is way back in the day. If you know Austin's, you're a real St. James person. You know thing. And I walking across, really must just go and make message or whatever they send me for on the main road or whatsoever it could. I can't remember what it was. I remember walking by myself. And I always used to be afraid of vagrants and homeless people, or whatever word you call them. I used to be afraid because they in my mind they're erratic and they could trip out anytime. And once me and them I make 4, I looking to run. They had one named Marilyn in St. James. I wonder if people remember Marilyn, boy. Marilyn was a tall, skinny lady. One time I walking up, going by Freddy's Bakery. I go and buy bread. And boy, when I turn around, I see Marilyn coming running up, what was that, Munaram Street? Boy, I take off with one speed and run inside Freddy's. Marilyn ain't even studying me now. Marilyn running behind somebody else studying where she going. She ain't taking me on. But afraid, long time we used to call them mad people. I can't say that again, right? Vagrants or the homeless and so on, you know? And I always afraid them. I grew up being afraid of them. And there was one man who, everybody in St. James know him as Bayram, right? He used to sit down by Austin's pharmacy every day and drink Bayram. If you don't know what is Bayram, take a taste, man. It's a nice little rum, you know what I mean? Better than White Oak. But I passed in a day by Austin's, and I don't know, I unconscious, I just going up the road to do what I had to do. And boy, I must be yawn. And up to today, there's something I struggle with up to today. I'm not good at that. I yawn, my big old yawn, and then put my hand by my mouth. You know, Bayram tell me, hey, so you can't put your hand by your mouth when you're yawning. I said, what the hell is going on in these streets? A vagrant is telling me to cover my mouth when I yawning. But here now, vexed, I'm feeling shame too. Because other people hear that, people laughing. I said, but what does I come to? A vagrant telling me this man drinking Bayram on the street smelling stink. And somewhere along the line, I start to realize, hey, the man right. From when you talk about manners and them thing, it can't be just yawning all over. It don't matter if he's a vagrant, he's a king, he's a school principal. The man making sense. So beyond not paying too much attention to how somebody says something, and I put in it out there one time, that's a struggle for me. I'm not saying this like I have it figured out. There's something I'm working on, work in progress, right? I also don't pay much attention to where a message come from, if the message useful to me. So Bayram tell me, cover my mouth when I yawn. Up to today, if I yawn tomorrow, I remember Bayram. I hope you remember me. So I try not to pay too much attention to how a message is sent or where the message coming from. Now, what that had to do with everything that went on this week? Well, to give some context, the election come and I get my kicks and everything. And I remember last week saying that I wasn't in agreement with Rowley going and announce himself as the winner. I still stick to that position. I don't like it. I don't think it was the right thing to do. I think going forward, there should be something in place that says the EBC is the only body that could announce the winner of an election. And there should be a way of a fine or a chargeable offense, going that far. If anybody goes so far as to declare themselves as the winner of an election before the EBC make an official pronouncement. Now, why am I saying that? Why is that such a serious thing? The reason is that we live in a country where 1/3 of the country faithfully belongs to one political party. 1/3 of the country faithfully belongs to another political party. Remember I said that last week, Vasant Bharat say, whether the government could do what they want and the opposition could do what they want. They have about 12 to 15 seats that they could call their own off the bat. They don't have to campaign. They don't have to do anything. We call them safe seats, right? So think about it for me. You have a portion of the country who, no matter what the PNM do, them go and vote for the PNM. You have a portion of the country who, no matter what the UNC do, them go and vote for the UNC. They have a next portion of the country, about the same amount of people who, what you want to call them, undecided. They're not sure who to vote for. They're waiting to hear what's the issue. They're balancing things out. They're not sure if they're going to vote at all. That is another 1/3 of the country right there, right? My issue is this, and I saw somebody post this on Facebook. I wish I could give the person credit, but when I went back, I couldn't find where I saw the post. But I thought it was an instructive thing. The person was saying basically that picture a situation where Kamla Persad-Bissessar announces herself as the winner of an election while you're on TV seeing boxes uncounted. Also picture a situation where the CEO of the EBC is Rudal Munilal niece. And they went through a list of things like that. And I started studying it and say, but wait, that person have a point. Stay with me. That person have a point. Because I know people who I know personally who are PNM people And I have nothing against nobody who for no political party. If you like your party and you're benefiting from your party in some way, then you do what you have to do. I tell you where I stand already. Where you stand is cool with me. But I know, the PNM people that I know, if that was the situation, imagine Kamala come and say, about 7:30 at night, or let me say 10 o'clock when Dr. Rowley do it. If Kamala Prasad Bisesa comes out and say, hey, we've been the election, this, that, and you see it on TV, it have seats where several polling stations in coming yet and ballot boxes in coming yet, that is a problem. That would not be met well by the 30% who support the PNM, regardless of what happened, or the 30% like myself who not on them political parties or trying to decide who they're going to vote for. I did not like it. I didn't like when Rowley do it. I would not like it if Kamala do it. So what I say, my proposal is this. Anybody who comes out, in my world, in my perfect world, anybody who comes out and announces themselves a winner of an election, particularly the incumbent, particularly the one who in power, because I want to address this rigged election talk, because nobody in coming out and saying exactly what it is, but I will say it. If there's an accusation or people saying basically that there's a possibility that election rigged, I'm very worried about that. I make my joke and thing, and I don't want to vote, and then I vote for I vote for one man who could get one vote. They say one man, one vote, right? So I vote for one man who could only get one vote. But I believe in the electoral process, and I believe in the right of people to choose the political party of their choice, even if they're born in PNM and they never will leave PNM. That's still a right. I believe in free and fair. What they say? Free, fair, and free from fear. I think that's a critical part of a democracy, and it's not to be played with. It's not a joke. As much as I like laugh and joke and kicks, it's not a joke. It is also not something to be dismissed. Because the thing about it is this. If it is like the little scenario that person paints on Facebook, if that was true, the red and ready people would have been in an uproar at this moment in time. I challenge anybody to tell me different. Shamfa Cudjoe would have said about 1,000 poems by now. You know how much a poem she would have spoken would be out by now whole week. And I don't think it is right to dismiss valid concerns about the electoral process. It is not right to me at all. Remember what I say, right? I do not care who send the message. You see the sender of the message? I don't care if it's Bayram. What I just listen to is the message. I don't care how they send the message to. So you see all the whole talk this week about racism and this and that. Racist talk is heavier, and maybe I'll do a whole episode on racism and talk about my views on that. But that talk is heavy. That is a burdensome kind of talk for me. And I feel a big part of it is because I come from St. James too. But I don't care how the message is sent. So with all that talk about who race and who this and who cockroach and all these kind of things, I ain't getting into that. What I'm listening to is the message. And the message that there's a portion of the population that is equal to all the other portions of the population, in that it's 30% who supporting the UNC, 30% who supporting the PNM, and about 30% in the middle. So there's an equal part of it. We think split into 3 equal parts, right? If these folks are saying that there's an issue with the electoral process, I think it would be wise for the other 60% to sit up and listen. That's all I say. I read a book one time, it said listen. It said just don't listen, you know. Shut your mouth and listen. It didn't just say shut your mouth, you know. It says shut your mouth and put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and listen. It's one of the best things I ever see in a book. Because a lot of times we, especially in the social media era, I guilty it myself. Sometimes we're listening to respond, or we're listening to counteract, or we're listening, particularly for me, I'm listening to make jokes. But sometimes you have to shut your mouth and put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and shut up and listen carefully to what's being said. Forget who's saying it and forget how they're saying it. I'm not saying you have to accept everything you hear, you know, but I'm saying that this issue is a real serious issue and is not one to be played with. So that all of us just keep Bayram in your mind and listen to the core of what is being said. Because rigged elections is a real thing. I just saw somebody in Guyana who claimed himself to be the leader of the country, the incumbent, of course, and he went back in power. He went back as the person in power. And GEOCOM is the equivalent to EBC, right? The EBC here is GEOCOM over there, the electoral, what's called them, team or committee, institution, whatever it is, right? GEOCOM. They declared him the winner as well, and he went back and sit down on his throne. And the other side kept saying, hey, it have all kind of irregularities. This is an issue, that is an issue. So we have a neighbor. And then eventually the courts ruled that he must vacate because there are a lot of issues with ballots for people who not there and people who dead already and all these types of things. And the courts, international and otherwise, because I saw a letter come from, I believe, the consulate of, I'm probably wrong on this, but it's USA, UK and Canada, I believe, wrote to the government or the incumbent to say, hey, give up power, vacate the seat. Otherwise, sanctions will come. And then when the sanctions start coming, all of a sudden he disappear. So the idea of a rigged election is not far from us. We have an example of it right next door. So I know, right, that if you are in the 30% that is loyal to the PNM, you will never see your party and your sacred and holy Dr. Rowley rigging an election. But I just want to put it to you that when the shoe is on the other foot, it could squeeze. Because I know that if you are a real PNM, and you could well see Kamala rigging an election, it's just the way we are. So don't forget how people saying things. Just listen to what being said. And I think what is happening here is not new. I don't remember an election. And I know born to it, so I don't know much. So my election process, me looking at elections would have started in the 90s. But I don't remember any election that didn't have recounts. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember any election that didn't have recounts. 2015 had recounts. 2010 had recounts. Manning and them, it was recounts then. A recount is a constitutionally acceptable and perfectly normal and necessary thing so that people could see. So going past that, I put on Facebook this week that I want to see, I find in this modern times, I always like to learn from youths. I think these youths have the answer. The answer for me is go live from every polling station in the country, right through. The election is done an expensive process already, so make it more expensive and go live there. I want to have the option to log in at any point in time and look at what happened in a polling station. I mean, I want to be as drastic as saying in this country, forget election in all 41 constituencies. Just do these 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 that matter, but I know that ain't going to happen. So I ain't going to fight that battle. But go live. And also go live when you're doing the recounts. Let it be that, you see, just like I would have the Parliament channel. Only remember when it didn't have a Parliament channel and we used to depend on just the little clips they show us. I like that it have a Parliament channel now. So when it have a debate or issue that meaningful to me, I could log in and watch that whole debate and see who is who. It give me a little more information as to who I could support or which party I feel is a better representation of my interests in the parliament, right? Or give me more information on how to vote or how to move. So I'm saying, in all polling stations on any given day, let me see where's the process. And if we're talking transparency, let's talk transparency. Now, if that is too broad a thing and maybe unnecessary, because from my understanding, salute to my partner Joel Julian again for the most credible guy I know and always had the information, was explaining to me what happens on election day in the polling station. Each party has a polling agent or the right to have a polling agent there. So when they're calling out my name, Corey Shepherd, number 140 something, everybody could scratch me off the list and see exactly what happened. The polling agents remain there all when it's time to count ballots. They never leave. So I have my PNM person in there watching what happened. I have my UNC person in there watching what happened. And I heard Imbert address the country. And I thought it was a pretty good address. I don't like to say that about Imbert. That was pretty good. But he was pretty good. He was solid. I wish he could talk like that more often. Just cool and explain where you come to explain and don't puff up. And anyway, next story. I think he did good to explain what it was to somebody like me who wouldn't have been through the process as a like a polling clerk. I never work in any. My whole experience is a couple minutes I come to vote. But he said that when both of them there, they count the ballots, they count them, is visible to everybody. Then they seal so for instance, they will do an envelope with PNM votes, an envelope with UNC votes, and everybody votes in that envelope. And for the Boubacar one vote, he don't need that. They just fold that up. They'll put it in that envelope. But they seal the envelopes, and when they seal it, everybody there, like the polling agents, the officials there from the EBC as well, all of them sign it. And it's a seal, so that if the seal broken, you could file an objection, right? And then the ballot box is sealed, and the envelopes go in the ballot box. So that's it. I cannot see from his description how they're going to rig the election. I also cannot see how a recount is going to help. In other words, even if the election rig, a recount is probably not your best route at showing the population that the election rigged, because whatever is in that box is the same thing going to be there the next time you count. But I'm saying that a recount is important. So the people go on to the recount, right? And as far as I'm concerned, if you're doing a recount and you have discrepancies with the way the votes are counted or mistakes that were made, as human beings, so we could have some mistakes. My thing would be, let's open these boxes, let's get this thing counted, because there's no time that I would feel comfortable not having any government per se in place. But there couldn't be a worse time than now. Not just when we have COVID being an issue globally, but where we have the borders being closed, is economic pressure because businesses close, and then the number of COVID cases rising. A couple more people died than we'd experienced. If we only experienced 8 deaths, it's 25% it gone up by. So the thing about it is, this is not the time for games. And as much as I've said what I've said in terms of allowing the process to go through where the recounts are concerned, the reports I hear about the type of games that being played in the recounts, I do not like it at all. I find this is madness, craziness. So apparently, fingers being pointed at Aloy Hunt and David Naked in particular, right? Because San Fernando West finished in a reasonable time. So salute to everybody involved in that process, and it seemed like Faris Al-Rawi going through with that seat. But dependent on seeing little releases here and there to figure out what happened with the other 4 ballot boxes that they counted, because I believe that the 5 were Toko Sande Grande, St. Joseph, Tunapuna, Sando West settled, right? And La Hoquita Talparo. I hear in La Hoquita Talparo settled, and Toko and St. Joseph as well. I hope I'm right about that. And Tunapuna is the one that still taking a long time. Now, Aloy Lee Hunt was in St. Joseph, right? This is something else that we might be talking about this. And I'm watching his press conferences, and I'm watching his brother, Gary Hunt, or I can't remember his brother, cousin, or family. And I thinking, somebody told me that he did speak, right? And he just said he wanted the process to be fair and all that, which I agree with. But I'm really interested in hearing like his in-depth view about the electoral process in Trinidad and Tobago. Because it didn't seem to be an issue when he was elected back in the day under a different party. But I guess he's supporting his brother, he's supporting his family, and if we're recounting, we're recounting. But when I hear stories about every single ballot being objected to because the X not center, and the X twist to the side, so it's looking like a cross. There's no X's, and that's too close to the line. I never hear nothing about no close to the line. And I seen randoms on Facebook posting things like, since when the EBC telling people they could vote without ID card and they don't need their polling card. I thinking, where were you? What are you talking about? It's just talking to me because it suits all it to talk about. But let me put it out there, I never voted a polling card yet. Maybe a couple of times. My mother and them are still forcing me to vote. But my polling card was by my mother. Meaning I reached by my mother after I vote, and I realized the polling card was home there. So when they're telling me that polling cards dump somewhere and it's a big thing, I watching people on Facebook discussing polling cards like it's ballots. And I confused. But back to boy Aloy Hunt and them talking about, let's say, every single ballot getting objected to. I try. That's a hard thing for me to understand, because and this is why I want cameras. Because I don't, sorry, but I don't trust politicians. When Imbert and them tell me that, I don't believe, somehow I just feel like it could have doubt. Let me see for myself, because I want to know if, when you go in there, every ballot means you're also querying the ones that people vote for you. I don't understand. Why would you query votes for you? Is it that they're querying every ballot that is not for them? Or is it like Imbert saying they're querying every ballot? I don't know. But I want to see. Because they see me, I want to see who is who. Let me see who is who in this process, because I will always go on a soapbox and say, hey, if we have to recount all, whatever the process is, let us go through it. Because I'd rather go through this for a week than what Guyana went through for months. I hear a story in Guyana last election about one time for recounting is a ballot box by a man and the man plays bundong, and see them kind of things. I don't want to live in no society like that. And if it comes to that over the next few weeks, time for me to make my exit strategy. I could podcast from anywhere. I'm not going through that. So I want to see if the process really being frustrated because X is so, or the X upside down, or the back to front. I want to know. I want to understand what was the process. Why? And not even why now, because if you're frustrated in the process, I feel I know why. I just want to know who frustrated in the process. And I put my biases out there too. I remember when David Naked was appointed as a candidate, and I was thinking to myself, why would we appoint David Naked to do anything? Listen, you do it for yourself, right? Go back and look at the history of David Naked. David Naked been trying to get elected for sundry things for a whole long time, and always an issue. But one thing about him, he's a combative kind of guy. The man is a battler, and maybe that's a great thing. But I'm not surprised that he ended up being the last man standing. And then I hear stories that the EBC say they're counting from 9 to 5, but men showing up 11 o'clock to start a count. And then when the returning officer saying extend the time, they can't stay because they're busy. And then they're complaining on press conferences that the EBC going from 6 to 11 and counting with none of their representatives there. Listen, if I feel an election rigged, I'm not even involved in the political process. And I will go down there and sit down there the whole day and night. I wouldn't sleep. If I feel like I've salute a partner of mine, a guy was in one of my classes in Guyana back in there, a guy called Jonathan Yearwood. I was watching Jonathan's Facebook page. And Jonathan, he took part in the electoral process in Guyana election. I believe he founded a party and went up. And his party was not involved in the recount. He was a Fuad Abubakar. He have a one vote. But I saw him go in the process. And what he was fighting for was the democracy of his country. What he's fighting for is his children and his grandchildren. So I put in it like this. If I feel an election rigged, I showing up there myself. And I'm not going to sleep. So if you feel an election rigged against you, where you run and pay your 5,000 and went, you showing up late for that, and to stay back late is a problem and thing. This can't be it. This can't be what we put in ourselves through. And remember, going back to something I'd said in the episodes gone by. I was quoting a song from Chalk Dust. And hear what the song say. I want to go back to it. He say, this thing called PNM, this thing called UNC, is one set of dotishness to mama guy, you and me. It ain't have no color, it ain't have no race, it ain't have no principles or any values in place. And it was never meant to be the answer for unity. It shares no philosophy with any consistency. 'Cause if you watch the pedigree in each and every party, the difference you see turns out to be a case of power and money. You see, them French Creoles in St. Anne's, Maraval and Sinclair, they don't hold no allegiance for no party here. Rich men does be supporting who they think going to win. Loyalty, friends means nothing. Money is their thing. Now, that song now is Chalk does it, so it's heavy lyrics and 4-5 verse and chorus and everything set up. But there is words that mean more to me than anything being said on these political platforms or anything that was said over the last week. By Calypso's, all stories are told. So I watch as a sort of divisiveness going on during the course of the week now because nobody don't want to listen to nobody. Nobody don't want to shut up and put their tongue at the roof of their mouth and listen. And you know what you will get if everybody do that? You get some silence, which is what we need. Because once the silence break, the losing guys start to get wild and start to say some of the most vile and hateful and racist and offensive things I have ever seen in my life. Well, I can't say I've ever seen in my life. Like I feel like I see it every 5 years. And as not accepting the loss or whatever you want to call what the process going on now, the supporters of the party, I don't want to say the leaders of the party, the supporters of the party get wild on Facebook and start to say anything they feel to say because them PNM people dotish and they think and they set a roach and I hope Rowley, what they ain't say about Rowley and his supporters is what they ain't want to say or what they say behind closed doors. And to me that is unacceptable. It's uncouth. It comes across as uneducated. Like you have no idea what's going on in this world and you're living in a bubble. So you just shoot your mouth off. But to me, I listen to all of it. I want to hear because you see, again, I'm going back to relationships, right? You see when somebody hurting, they just want to say things to hurt you back. And I understand what that is. You lost an election, especially if you feel you lost it under cloudy circumstances or shady circumstances, I should say. You'll be hurt and you'll want to hurt some people. That is all. I just admit the other day, a couple of minutes ago, that all you say things to hurt people who only loved before. So don't go back on that for me now. And all you also admit that people who only love say things to hurt all you and only forgive them and only love them still and only still together and thing. So don't tell me now that you can't understand what we're saying about people who lose being like they're hurting, so they're lashing out. And when you lose, especially if you lose under not clear or shady circumstances, in your opinion at the time, you're going to get some of that. Now, am I saying that you should forgive and go and hug up and kumbaya? You're probably saying that, but I understand when somebody say that about you, when a man tell you thing and you're a roach and you start to get defensive too. And nobody don't like to stay on the defensive for too long. So a counter-attack now start to happen and it's bombs over Baghdad. Because now you say something racist, we're going to screenshot that and show that as if that is who you are and that is what you represent for the rest of your life. And then you used to be condemned and we should never hear from you again. You should be cast away. And then we now go instead of, because if somebody's saying hurtful and mean things about me and I can't handle it, I would want to stay away from them people. But what I find now is that the other side now, they went and seek out what being said. So they start to follow every page, whether it's endorsed by UNC or not. They start to follow every page and find every single person that say anything racist, offensive or otherwise. And now post their work, post their parents, post their children, post anything. Because it's a hurt for hurt now. So hurt people hurting people and we in a spiral. And a week passing, and over that week, we move it's 50 a day in terms of COVID cases. Because we can't unite. We can't figure out how to talk about race in a meaningful way, in a progressive way. And the only way to do that is to open up a space to listen. I tell Ole in one of the episodes, plenty is being revealed to me by comedians, you know. If you want to move past an issue, you have to create a space where people could talk about the way they feel without consequences. If every time I open my mouth to say how I feel, everybody going to attack me and come back at me and think, and I'm talking about the way I feel might be wrong, the way I feel might be offensive. But if you want to get past it, one of the things you have to do is shut him out, put his tongue at the roof of your mouth, and listen. And I'm not saying me no Bible man, to say forgive and turn no other cheek and all them kind of things. But if we want to go forward in a country where we could, the politics is reflective of the way we actually live, we had to listen. We had to listen to both sides. What it is about the politics that make me start to look like an enemy to you because I supporting Philip Alexander, which will never happen, as your enemy now, and we living as neighbor and everybody living good all the time, or because I supporting one party, I had to hide and support the party because you so I in an area where there's one group of people and I can support my PP and peace in that community and we can live and enjoy ourselves and that's what we come into. Nah, man. That let me tell you something. I will never come to that, That is not for me. And I said in some episodes before as well, this cancel culture thing is something that I struggle with all the time. What exactly cancel mean? Cancel you from the face of the earth? For the most part, it seems to mean these days, stop you from making money or don't spend money by you. And listen, I not getting in anybody way and anybody who calling for a boycott and thing. I tell you all up front, I'm not going back by Starlight. You could call it a boycott, a girl cut, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going back by Starlight based on the comments that were made. But a more progressive conversation, going back to my brother Omari Ashby, he came on soon after that. What's my boy name from Starlight again? Whatever his name is. He came on soon after that and said, boy, I don't want to have no boycott conversation. He went through that so much times in life already. He said, I want to go through a support conversation where, as a black business owner, I could support other black businesses. I find it's a more progressive conversation. Like I saw somebody sending a clip of David Mohammed talking today, and I mean David Mohammed saying that he talking about these things for 10 or how much ever years he was saying it. It had to be more than 10. When I first started listening to David Mohammed on radio, that's plenty years ago. And he was saying, listen, we talking about boycotting this and boycotting that. He said when nothing happen, nothing going on in the country, everything smooth, everybody loving everybody. And we willfully and blissfully boycotting black businesses every day. Because we passing businesses that friends of ours own, businesses in our own community, and we're going to support other businesses like normal. And I don't see anything wrong with that. But then don't make it seem like a thing now where as somebody says something offensive, the solution to that is to not buy nothing from them no more. But still, you're redirecting your investment or redirecting your finances to more people who outside your community who might feel the same way. And they just do it covertly and quietly and they don't make a public statement. And again, I want to tell you how I feel when I hear that man say them things from Starlight. And I spend money in Starlight every single day. And I am not one of them who walking around trying to say, okay, I'm not supporting this group. I'm not buying from this person because he don't look like me. I don't do that. But to me, when you show your hand, like we take the long route to get to Ramsaran, right? When you show me your hand and you come out and you say things like that, I don't see how you expect people not to react. Because I'm not sure what was he thinking in the supermarket association that boycott immediately and then rescind it the next day. And I don't know what's the official position that Massey have at this point where Ramsaran drinks concerned. But I didn't see it playing out any other way. When they said they was gonna boycott the Ramsaran drinks, I expected that the Indian community would come out and say, well, hey, if you're boycotting that, we boycotting all you. What we expect people to do is the same reaction and back and forth. None of it is progressive. The Ramsaran situation to me is equally unprogressive, if there's a word, as the stalemate situation and everybody making racist remarks. It's not progressive. It's not leading anywhere. None of it is bettering any of us. It's making us worse. And that's why I go back to them lyrics that Chalk Dust was singing, because the divisiveness that all politics causes along racial lines. What David Rudder used to say, how we vote is not how we party. Sweet, sweet TNT. I believe that to be true. Going back to St. James again. When I grew up in St. James, I participate in every festival it had. And mostly because I was greedy too. And I know one thing about religion, when you fast, when you break the fast, it's heavy food you're going to eat after, So I went. I mean, I tell earlier, I beat drum in Hussein. I was in Hussein yard all the time growing up for the whole time for Hussein. I was there. I used to go and clean the Mandy right wrong and behind St. James, behind the park on Panker Street there. When Baptists had Thanksgiving, I in that because when Baptists started give you a thing after it's Thanksgiving and it's giving of things. And when they started giving food, listen, them used to put everything in one bag. Bread, sauce, up, all kind of sweet. Boy, listen, I licking up that. And for eat, I hear people talking some kind of thing like, I don't eat prayers food and listen, I eat the most prayers. Right now, all them prayers working themselves out inside of me. Who battling who one thing and I good and strong and healthy. I eating any amount of prayers food. But on that topic of prayers food, that we I'm talking about black people now as a community. It's easy. Let me put it this way: it's easy for any race to see how the other race is being racist and not realize. Forget the word racist. It's easy for any race to see the biases in another race, and a little more difficult for you to see the biases in your own race. Or what the Bible used to say, the beam in your eye and the splinter in the next man's eye and them things. Because we grew up, and anybody who grew up in the black experience is what I'm talking to for a second, right? You can't tell me you never hear nobody in your house say, don't go and eat them people food, don't eat them prayers food. Then people putting all their worries and all the thing. You want to tell me you never say that? Or you never hear nobody say that? You understand what I'm saying? And listen, let me talk to my Indian community now. You don't tell me you never was home and hear them say, I remember being in rituals a day, boy, and I was so shocked when I heard this. I see some fellas, some Indian businessmen, it look like around a table having a little meeting. And I minded my business, I doing my work on my computer and thing. And in the midst of my work, I hear the fella say, boy, to be honest with you could hire them Creole, you just have to watch them. Well, boy, my blood get hot. I want a mash up thing inside there. I say, what? I couldn't believe. But again, I'm working on myself. I'm trying to not pay attention to what being said, not pay attention to how something being said or who's saying it, and get to the part of it that meaningful to me, or get to the bottom of why somebody's saying that, and let them be free. If it's your view, it's your view. I'm a firm believer in if that's the way you see the world, that's the way you see the world. But I also know that the way I see the world 10 years ago is not the way I see the world today, and people could change. People could change, as strange as it might sound. Not people could change, people do change. So going back to my Indian community now, you can't tell me you wasn't home and they say, boy, you could sing and you could play with them and you could lie with them and nobody can't marry them. And why you fight? I remember an experience again. One time when I was just leaving UE, when I was on campus, I was living in a place off campus and things. So, of course, when I graduate, I don't want to move back home. So, I had a friend who was living far, and she East Indian, and she was looking for apartments. And we end up talking and things, and we say, well, listen, if we put up, just like how we used to live on campus, campus is communal living, right? You rent a room and you share a kitchen and that kind of thing. We say, well, listen, let we go half in our apartment. And you would take one room, I would take the next room, and whatever, and we will live. It's not much different from how we was living before. Me and the girl ain't nothing, so don't give it no ideas. And I remember her calling me, and we find a place, and the place was real good. When I went, the place just feel good. You know how it's go when you're going to rent a place and you find the spot. So we find this spot, and she called me late the night, and I could hear the hesitation in her voice. This is the one who I was going to share the place with. And I'm trying to figure out, well, I was like, listen, come out and say what you had to say. What happened? Tell me. And she said, well, boy, listen. The person say we could get the place and thing, but being honest with you, Corey, she come out and asked me, well, why I had to come with a Negro fella if I can't find a little Indian fella to rent the next room. And boy, listen, I saying these things, I was offended. I'm not trying to pretend like I wasn't offended and I wasn't hurt by them comments and thing, but I just putting those things out there to show you that it's and you know it already. There are people who see the world this way. But I don't have no hate for you could hate me how much you want. I don't have no hate for nobody. I eventually tell her, I say, girl, listen, if you want, don't feel no way, because I don't know if you're still considering taking the place or what you want to do. I said, don't feel no how. If you feel like it's thing, I go. Don't worry about it. That is what it is. And she didn't take the place. Let me just put her out there one time. She didn't stand for it either. But we know the conversations as be happening behind closed doors. So I'm just saying that I'm not condoning anything anybody said over the last week that would have been offensive to any other group. I just want to make sure that we being honest with ourselves, that the comments we're reacting to, we have comments like those going on in our households every day. Now, I see somebody put on Facebook, they said, when you hear racist talk and offensive talk going on in your home, you be the one to put a stop to it. I want to say something about that too. That is good in theory, right? But it have some people I not fighting no argument with. Just like how I saying I not going on no kick out the PNM page to see what racist thing nobody say. To respond to that, I am also not doing that. There are people in my family who I will say, hey, you can't say that. Why you will say that about people? People is good people. No, don't say that. That's offensive. Or people might make a joke and say, nah, don't make them kind of bad skylark. That's not nice. If somebody hear you saying that, they will think that's how you really feel. But I'm telling you too, it's how people in my family I'm not fighting that battle with. I just cringe on the inside and I move forward. So let me don't pretend that that's not happening too. As I say, unless we're willing to have the conversation openly and with no consequences to understand how everybody and all these how people feel on both sides of the fence, then unless we're ready to do that, we're not ready to have the conversation. And the last thing I want to say about that is this. You see the way anybody else feel about me, that is not my concern. You see what anybody else choose to call me, that is not my concern. What I answer to is my concern, and what the conversation I have with myself, and I am the only one who can determine my own value. So anybody else who wants to determine my value for me, the words you're saying falling on deaf ears. As I say, I'm not going nowhere to look for nothing to comment on or to screenshot or to share, because the things you're saying inconsequential. You cannot value who I am, as I can value who you are. You have to find your own value. And last but not least, what we see over the last week is like, they used to tell us when I first started doing statistics, they used to talk about plane crash versus a car crash. And why is a plane crash such a big thing? Because it happens way fewer. Like, you're so much more likely to get in a car accident, God forbid, than a plane crash. But you're so much more worried about the plane crash. It's really because of the impact of a plane crash. It's like, it's hard to survive, it's a big issue, it's big news and stuff. While a car crash, them things happening every day, most of them minor, most of them not fatal or no injuries and that type of thing. And it's similar to what we see over the last week. How we vote is not how we party. You're seeing people calling this one name and who answering back and saying this one, and that is a very small amount of people in the greater scheme of things who jumping out themselves and putting themselves out there and young Ramsaran girl get passing in rush and stuff. And I'm saying those things are to be dealt with, to be condemned, and whatever the words you could find. But what we should avoid doing is using that small group of people to judge an entire race or entire nation of people. Just remember where you work and where is Lime and who is play sports with and who is going to gym with. And we as a multitude of races in this country have been coexisting and showing love for one another and embracing all our cultures for way more years than this PNM and UNC politics and thing come in. So I don't want us to be in this mode where every election we're going to divide ourselves down the middle, and who don't like this one and them had never like we, and who more racist than who. Inconsequential, is garbage, is a waste of time, and it's not how we live every day. But unfortunately, we live in a country where 2020 have elections, 2021 a THA election, 2022 have local government election, and then by the time you look again, it's PNM and UNC and a big fight, and who financing who and who cussing who, and who we right back to square one. So I guess you could start to see a little more why I don't like the politics. I can't support neither side. I was hinting to that story last week about guild elections on campus when I was there, and it's Mwafa Baker versus Ravi Ram, and as a black man must support Mwafa, and I not joining nothing that have that kind of separation in that, because that is not how I live. My first girlfriend was very, like, from Separia Indian, very, very Indian. And my last girlfriend is dark. She's dark. It's very dark. It's like, not from the outskirts, like not from Egypt or South Africa, dark, like from the middle, the Congo. So I tell you, I don't the middle, you know. I don't play these games. I don't the middle. So like, take all the sides and thing, and let me know how that go next week, right? Hopefully by the end of this week we have a government sworn in and whatever happen, so that we could just focus on what happened in the CPL. By the time I launch this CPL, oh no, but I can't go to CPL yet, you know. We have some things to address as before we on sports, but we can't go CPL yet. I just keep, every time I'm trying to figure out what we're talking about where sports concerned, like the word tiger just keep coming, like tiger. And then I realized tiger is 8 in the playway. And I don't know what went on with Barcelona. Oh God, I had to take a little time to laugh at Barcelona. My side didn't say nothing, so I had to take a laugh at Barcelona. I had to take a laugh at Man U, who was laughing at Barcelona, and then end up couldn't laugh no more when Sunday come. But 8, that game was some. And listen, the first goal score was our own goal to Bayern. That was advantageous. And as always, I mean, I'm Argentina fan too in the World Cup football. I like Argentina. As a Soccer Warriors fan, right? But I like Argentina. And it's always when I watch what Barca come to, it's always making me realize that no matter how great you was, and your time does come, like your legacy will always be there, but your time does come when I'm watching Messi as great. Messi is one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player who ever lived. But you could see where his younger days and his glory days, it seemed to be, you know, and it's sad to see sometimes, like I was talking about Tyson and Roy Jones the other day, and when you see men pass that legacy stage and they still want to fight and thing, I mean, and Messi out there, great player and everything, but it's sad to see some of the greats when they go down. And when I'm watching Messi, boy, it reminded Mark Hamill. Oh man, after all them thing I now say about how important an election is and why it must be seen as fair, not just, it mustn't, what do you say? Justice must be also appear to be served, not just to be served, all that good stuff. And Kamala is not saying no words. I don't know what is going on with Kamala Persad-Bissessar. It's amazing to me, like we didn't hear from her since Monday night when she say she contested in the elections and thing. Since then, it's Anita Haynes talking, the PRO, who said that is what she is supposed to do. She is supposed to talk to the media and thing. Well, I thinking of it more like this. If it is you have a leader of a party who have such a serious grievance with the electoral process, I would think that the leader is front and center every day in every press conference at the polling stations making it. This is somebody who's stealing an election you're talking about. If you think somebody steal an election, how you could send your PRO to deal with this? And David Naked, who is running for the first time under your banner, is one of the more vocal people. Aloy Hunt, who for the first time is running under your banner, is one of the more vocal people. Jerlyn John, who no stranger to the politics, but for the first time running for a seat under your banner. She front and center fighting this battle, and you not being seen at all. What's good? What's good? Come out, let people hear from you, your supporters. 30% of the country, remember? And you do a good job convincing at 30% in the middle to come your way, because you win some of the safe seats too, which are coincidentally, they have no issues with any of the ballots or the seals or the initials of the polling officer or missing polling cards. In the South Barrett area had none of that. That was clean. It was just these seats, right? But you should be out there. You should be talking and things. But they're saying that behind the scenes, they say a lion roaring and somebody else lining up and who defending who and who lawyers saying what. So it'll be interesting to see. I think personally, I think Kamala is at Messi stage now. I think it's just about that time where you had to Roy Jones it and Tyson it and do some legacy fights and give us a chance to support your own legacy. You know what I mean? You was the Prime Minister of this country for 5 years, and it's like, I was saying this during the week too about Manning and Pandey, where I see in both of them being revered as beacons of unity and clean politics, and I don't know that was the case at all when they were running against each other and at each other's throats. I don't know when that happened. I guess as you get older or you pass away, in the case of Manning, rest in peace, you're revered in a different way, and maybe it's a good opportunity for some of them to ride off into the sunset and be revered as well. So I don't know if she'll survive this and if she'll still be the leader of the party, but at least if she isn't and she retire from politics, which I suspect she'll have to do, we could get a chance to pay respect to you, man, as a prime minister in the country, and pay tribute to you for the work that you put in for this country. And I would say the same for Rowley. I want to give him kudos for coming out and saying on his speech, what you want to call it, acceptance speech of political victory, for coming out and saying that basically, hey, this probably my last term, because I remember him fighting for 2-term leaders and that kind of thing. So I find that was noble of him to come at the beginning of his first term, or second term, sorry, if this is it, to say, hey, this is my last, and I'm going to train some youths and stuff. So I glad to see that, man. So it will be interesting to see what the next week brings. I hope, as I say, we might have a swearing in, we might have a swearing out. So let's see what go down. But anyway, CPL. By the time we release this episode, CPL should be the Tuesday. And I'm so glad, I mean, maybe this is part of the revenue for CPL, like controlling the viewership by locking everybody down so that we could just stay home and watch CPL. But boy, I'm grateful. I used to real bad talk cricket as a sport, and I didn't want to watch no cricket no more. I didn't want to have nothing to do with cricket. But I'm so glad to be able to stay home and just watch some cricket. They say cricket starts at 10 o'clock. And there's 2 games a day. So after that first game, they have a next game starting about 2-3 o'clock. I just glad to be home, and it's like just take your mind off it a little bit, boy. Because as I said, my energy is not the same this week. It's depressing, this lockdown thing, and that school closed, and no it's any train again. It's like, what we going to do? You know what I mean? And I don't know how it's going for you all, but my office, we pretty much working from home. I go down to the office a couple of days a week, but I guess we get so accustomed to the routine of going away from home for so many hours, and then you come back home in the evening and unwind, that it's a strange thing now that the tables, it almost flip inside out, where you're home most of the day and you get out to unwind a little bit. No, it's a strange reality. But as I say, new normal. So I'm here for the new normal. Eager to see. I'm watching everybody game now. St. Lucia, I don't care who play. Anybody playing cricket. I'm just watching sports now, and hopefully it's a little tranquilizer through this little period. We had 28 days. So I'm here with you for the 28 days. And the good news, if you're a listener to this podcast, from this week, I'm going to start putting out, what I decided to do, right, is continue to do the episodes every Tuesday as I would usually do. And I will start doing, I know I keep saying this, but interviews going to start coming soon. And I will do the interviews separate from the episodes. But there's also something I want to do with some people who are very, very close to me. Just do some conversations. It's less of an interview and more of a conversation. So what I will start doing is my episodes will be every Tuesday like normal. You'll get like clockwork. But later in the week, I think in Friday morning maybe, I will start releasing either conversations or interviews. Either interviews with personalities or I don't know who the interviews will be with. It depends on what happening out there. But I have a few people well lined up just to have some conversations, and people who are real influential in my life and mean a lot to me. And I'm going to be releasing the first one this Friday. So at least during this period of quote-unquote lockdown, or whatever we're going to call this now, we have some more content and some more stuff to listen to. So I'm looking forward to you guys' feedback. Don't forget, follow the podcast page on Instagram and Facebook. And you can give me as much feedback as you want, and we'll adjust as we go along. So next week.